Welcome to the deep dive. We're going deep into Qualcomm's business model today.
Oh, yeah. Those 10K reports you gave us, those are really going to help us understand how they work,
Right. So basically, we want to see how Qualcomm makes money
how they spend it.
and what they offer,
Yeah,
that makes them stand out.
exactly. We're focusing on the core business model, revenue, costs, and what value they provide.
Okay, cool. So looking at these reports, Qualcomm has two main ways they bring in the money, right? Two separate business segments even?
Yeah. First, you've got QCT, which stands for Qualcomm CDMA Technologies.
Okay.
That's their semiconductor business, all
Okay.
about the Snapdragon chips.
Right, right. The ones in our phones and
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Phones, tablets, even some laptops these days.
Then there's QTL, Qualcomm Technology Licensing.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, what's that all about?
It's their patents, their giant patent portfolio, all about wireless communication.
I see.
So they've got patents for 3G, 4G, 5G,
Wow, so basically everyone needs a license from them.
pretty much. Anyone making devices using that tech, Qualcomm's actually brought in over $150 billion from licensing since they started.
$150 billion. No wonder they've had those big legal fights over these patents.
Right, like that Apple settlement back in 2019.
Oh yeah, that was a big one.
Apple ended up paying a lot to keep using Qualcomm's tech in their iPhones.
Shows how powerful those patents are. But looking at the 10Ks, Qualcomm isn't just relying on licensing.
No, not at all. They're diversifying, especially within QCT.
How so?
Well, handsets are still a big chunk of QCT revenue, but they're moving into new areas, automotive and IoT especially.
The Internet of Things.
Yep, that's the one. Think connected cars, smart homes, all that. They've got a whole platform called Snapdragon Digital Chassis, designed for connected and autonomous vehicles.
I saw they bought Veoneer in 2021. Was that part of that push?
Exactly. Veoneer did advanced driver assistance systems, other car tech. That acquisition showed Qualcomm is serious about the future of transportation.
So basically, listeners, you probably use Qualcomm tech every day,
Your phone, your smart devices, you name it.
but it's their licensing business that really makes them dominant in the wireless world.
Yeah, it's their foundation, their financial strength. They make money selling chips, and then they make money again licensing the tech behind them.
Okay, so we see how they make the money. What about how they spend it? These 10Ks, they show massive spending on research and development.
R&D is absolutely essential for a company like Qualcomm. Got to stay ahead, Especially in tech, everything changes so fast.
Makes sense.
Their latest fiscal year, over $9 billion went into R&D.
$9 billion. What's that going toward?
Pushing the limits, 5G advanced, artificial intelligence, extended reality. They're making networks faster, AI processors more efficient, even creating those immersive XR experiences.
Okay, so lots of innovation, but they're fabulous, right? They design chips, not manufacture them.
Right.
So are manufacturing costs low for them?
Well, they don't own the factories, but getting space at those top foundries like TSMC, Samsung, that's expensive.
Oh, I see.
It's competitive. Everyone wants that capacity, especially with the chip shortage lately. And prices have gone up.
So it's not as simple as just designing a chip and being done with it.
Not at all. And then you've got the legal costs, all those patent battles. Those add up.
So listeners, just think about all that pressure.
Hmm.
Securing the best manufacturers, these legal battles, billions in R&D. That's life in the tech world.
Yeah, it's fast-paced and demanding. High stakes, for sure. But let's look at what Qualcomm offers its customers. Why choose them over everyone else?
Well, it seems like it comes down to performance and integration. Their Snapdragon platforms pack a lot into a single chip.
It's power A&D efficiency, all in one.
Right.
It's their system on a chip design, SoC for short. They put processing, graphics, AI, connectivity all on a single chip.
I see.
Makes things faster, but it's also better for battery life. That's huge for mobile devices.
So it's like, what, a Swiss Army knife of technology all in a tiny chip?
Perfect analogy. And it's not just about raw power. They've got these specialized processors, the hexagon processors, designed for AI, audio, sensor stuff.
Interesting.
It's about the whole user experience, making things responsive, better sound, even how the device interacts with its environment.
So they're thinking ahead, trying to meet needs that customers might not even know they have yet.
Yeah, that's the goal.
And then there's 5G. They were leading the charge on developing and standardizing that tech.
Definitely gives them an edge. Everyone wants that faster connectivity.
Right.
Qualcomm's the go-to for 5G, and they've got a whole ecosystem built around it. Device makers, network, software developers, everyone's working with them.
So it's like this network effect, right?
Exactly.
More companies use their tech, the more appealing it becomes for everyone else.
A win-win for Qualcomm and their partners. So what sets them apart? What makes them more than just another chip company?
Well, they don't just do the hardware,
Yeah.
unlike a lot of others. They offer a whole package. Software, reference designs, development tools.
Right.
Makes it easier for their customers to use Qualcomm's tech.
It's a one-stop shop. They don't have to go to different vendors for everything.
I see.
A complete solution, all from Qualcomm, makes things so much simpler for their customers.
And a good example of that is their Snapdragon 5G modem RF system,
Oh, absolutely. The first modem-to-antenna 5G solution out there.
optimized for, what, performance and efficiency.
Yep. They handle everything, from the modem connecting to the network all the way to the antenna sending and receiving signals.
Wow.
They control every piece, fine-tune it, all to give users the best possible experience.
It's pretty impressive how much they do. But we can't forget the licensing advantage. Those patents, they put them in a unique position.
Right. They can sell the chips A&D, collect money from competitors who use their tech.
Two birds, one stone.
It's a smart model, but some people criticize it.
Oh, why is that?
They say it stifles competition, makes prices higher for consumers.
I can see that side of it too. It's got to be tough finding that balance.
It is. They need to protect their IP, get value from it, but they also can't be seen as anti-competitive. It's a delicate situation.
Definitely. Okay, so let's focus in on those critical operations.
Yeah.
What are the things they have to do to succeed?
Well, innovation's at the top of the list. R&D is crucial. That's what drives those cutting-edge technologies.
Makes sense. Can't just sit back and relax in the tech world.
Nope, not if you want to stay ahead. They're not just tweaking things either. It's about breakthroughs. 5G advanced, even looking at 6G already.
Wow, 6G.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Faster speeds, lower latency. It's going to be huge.
Thinking long term. But it's not just about inventing, right?
Right.
They have to actually get the technology out to people.
And that's where supply chain management comes in.
Yeah.
Super critical, especially these days.
Yeah, with all the, global disruptions and stuff.
Exactly. Pandemic, geopolitical stuff, natural disasters. It's a lot. And Qualcomm has a whole network of suppliers, manufacturers. Any disruption can really mess things up.
So for the listener, just picture this. Millions of chips, each with billions of transistors, all being produced and shipped across the globe.
It's a logistical masterpiece, and Qualcomm has to get it right every time to stay competitive.
That's a lot of pressure. And then there's managing all those licensing agreements.
Right, another big one. They got to balance getting the most revenue, but also making sure their tech is widely used.
Like a game of chess.
Totally. Every move counts. They have to predict what competitors will do, make deals that work for Qualcomm, A&D, the people licensing their tech. Billions of dollars are on the line.
So it's a high-stakes game all around. And speaking of competition, they're not just dealing with other chip makers.
Oh no, you've got companies like Apple designing their own chips now.
Right, that vertical integration thing.
That's a challenge for sure. The more companies do that, the smaller the market gets for Qualcomm's Snapdragon platforms.
It's like if a restaurant lost their biggest customer because that customer started growing their own food.
Exactly. Qualcomm has to find ways to stand out. Better tech, better solutions, better pricing, something.
So how are they responding to that? Are they just trying to stay ahead in the tech race, or are they doing other things too?
They're definitely not standing still. Still investing heavily in R&D, pushing those boundaries, and 5G advanced AI XR.
Okay, that makes sense.
But they're also looking at new markets, automotive and IoT. Those have a lot of growth potential.
So basically diversifying, not relying on one thing too much.
Exactly. And even exploring new business models, like offering their chip designs as intellectual property.
What does that mean?
So instead of selling the finished chips, they sell the designs, the blueprints.
I see, so other companies can make the chips themselves.
Right. It opens up new markets, lets them get revenue from companies who might not buy the chips directly.
Smart. It helps with that vertical integration problem too, right?
Exactly. It spreads the risk. But we can't forget about the bigger economic picture.
Right. Yeah.
Semiconductors, it's a cyclical industry.
Ups and downs.
Yeah, global demand, new tech, even geopolitics can affect things. And we're seeing that now. Chip shortage, supply chain issues, inflation. It's a lot.
How's Qualcomm handling all that?
It's tough. Got to control costs, but also keep up with demand. They've had to make some hard choices,
Like what?
deciding which markets to focus on, how to use their limited manufacturing capacity. It's all about strategy.
So for the listener, think about it. The pandemic, the war in Europe, the US-China trade
It
war,
all has an impact.
real-world consequences for companies like Qualcomm, getting the materials, making the products, shipping them out. It all gets disrupted,
It's all connected. Qualcomm has to be really flexible to navigate it all.
definitely. And speaking of geopolitics, China's a huge market for them.
Huge. And we know things are tense between the US and China.
Yeah, that's got to be a concern.
It is. The Chinese government wants to be more self-reliant in tech,
I've heard about that.
pushing their own companies to make their own chips, rely less on foreign companies.
But that's a risk for Qualcomm.
Right, definitely. Their 10K reports even say it directly. They see China's Made in China 2025 plan as a potential threat.
It makes sense for China trying to boost their own industry.
Right. But it could hurt Qualcomm a lot if they lose market share to Chinese companies.
And then there's the trade war on top of everything else.
Yep, more complexity, tariffs, export restrictions. It disrupts supply chains, makes things more expensive, adds a lot of uncertainty.
So it's not just about the technology for Qualcomm, it's politics too. It can
Mm.
change everything for them.
For sure. Now let's look at their financial performance. Revenue, profits, overall health. How are they doing?
Well, from their history, they seem to be in pretty good shape.
Yes, steady growth in revenue and earnings these past few years.
Driven by what? Strong demand for Snapdragon and that licensing business.
Exactly. They're getting good results despite all the challenges we've talked about. Their stock price has had its ups and downs, but that's tech for you.
Volatile.
Exactly. But the core business seems solid.
And their balance sheet looks healthy, right? Plenty of cash, manageable debt.
Yeah, they seem ready for any economic storms that might come their way. Like they've built this strong foundation for future growth.
But there are always risks,
Mm,
right? When
right.
you're looking at any company.
Of course. We've talked about China, competition from Apple.
What other red flags should investors watch out for?
Well, they're still tied to the global economy. A recession could hurt demand for electronics, which would hurt Qualcomm.
Makes sense. And then there's always the possibility of new technology that changes everything.
Oh, yeah, disruption. What if something comes along that makes Qualcomm's chips outdated?
It's a valid concern.
It is. And one Qualcomm knows about. That's why they put so much into R&D, trying to stay ahead of the curve.
But even then, there's no guarantee. Yeah.
Nope. You can't predict everything. And then there's the scrutiny on their licensing business.
Oh, yeah, those accusations of unfair practices.
Right. The Apple lawsuit, the government investigations.
Those are expensive, distracting, and they hurt Qualcomm's image.
It's tough. They need to protect their rights, but also be seen as fair.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is. Something investors need to watch carefully. Now let's talk about those big bets on emerging tech. 5G advanced, AI, extended reality.
Is it all hype, or is there real potential there?
I think it's a mix of both. They're exciting areas, lots of potential, but they're also really competitive and changing fast. No guarantee Qualcomm will win them all.
It's a gamble, right?
In a way, yeah. They're betting on where they think technology is going. Only time will tell if they're right.
And the big factor is how they bring those technologies into their existing products.
Right. Can they create something that makes customers want to buy their 5G advanced AI XR stuff? That's the key.
So, listener, think about how these could change your life.
Faster connectivity, smarter devices, immersive experiences.
Qualcomm's betting they'll be the ones to make it happen.
Now, finally, let's touch on their capital allocation. How do they decide where to invest their money?
Well, we know they put a lot into R&D.
Right, and they're making strategic acquisitions like Veoneer to get into those key growth markets.
And they're giving money back to shareholders through dividends and stock buybacks.
It's about finding that balance, investing in the future, but also rewarding current investors.
And keeping a healthy balance sheet so they can handle anything that comes their way.
It's a complex equation, lots of tough decisions. But so far, Qualcomm seems to be managing it well.
So to sum up, Qualcomm is a company with a lot going on, a leader in wireless, but also facing some serious challenges.
Competition, geopolitics, the risk of new technologies. It's a fascinating story.
It is, and one we'll be watching closely. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll look at Qualcomm's future and offer some final thoughts for you, the listener. Welcome back to our deep dive into Qualcomm. We've gone through their business, their strengths, their weaknesses. Now, what about the future? What's next for this company?
Well, predicting the future is always tough, especially in tech. Things move so fast.
Right.
But from what we see in these 10Ks from our analysis, I think Qualcomm's in a good spot. They're ready to take advantage of some big trends changing the industry.
Okay, so what trends are working in their favor?
Well, the biggest one, the world's going wireless.
Right, more and more every day.
And that demand for connectivity, it's only going to grow. 5G rolling out, 6G on the horizon.
6G already.
It's coming. And Qualcomm, they're the experts in wireless. They're going to benefit from that for sure.
They're already the big name in 5G, and now they're getting ready for 6G too. Faster speeds, lower latency, even more connected devices, new experiences.
That's the future. And speaking of connected devices, Qualcomm's not just about phones anymore.
Right, they're pushing into automotive IoT.
Exactly. Those are big growth areas.
Like we talked about, their Snapdragon digital chassis for cars, that Veoneer acquisition, they're all in on the future of transportation. Electric, connected, self-driving.
That's where it's going. And then there's IoT. Basically everything connected to the internet.
Everything.
Pretty much. Home appliances, industrial equipment, you name it, all generating data, needing powerful processing. Qualcomm's chips, they're perfect for that.
It's almost hard to imagine how many devices will be connected in a few years. And Qualcomm wants to be the one powering it all. But it's not just connecting them, it's making them smarter too.
Right, that's where AI comes in.
Artificial intelligence.
Qualcomm's investing a lot in it, better AI processors, software tools for developers. They see AI changing everything.
So making their chips better, but also enabling new features for users.
Exactly. Photography, gaming, virtual assistants, AI going to be key for Qualcomm. And then there's XR, extended reality.
Virtual reality, augmented reality, all that.
Yep, all of that. Qualcomm sees XR as another big growth area. They're working on the hardware and software to create those immersive experiences.
It's like what? Being able to attend concerts virtually, travel the world from your living room.
Or even having meetings with holograms of your colleagues. That's the kind of future Qualcomm's getting on.
Sounds pretty amazing. But we got to remember there are challenges too.
Oh, absolutely. Competition, geopolitics, the possibility of new tech that disrupts everything. It's not all smooth sailing.
We talked about Apple making their own chips, Qualcomm's reliance on China, that constant risk of being overtaken by something new. Those could all hurt their growth and profits.
They could. And a big question is what happens with their licensing business?
Right. Can they keep making money from those patents without upsetting everyone?
Exactly. They need to protect their IP, but also be fair to the companies that license from them. Not to mention keeping governments happy.
It's a tough act to balance.
It is. They need to be smart about it, or they could face backlash from governments, from consumers.
So, listener, here's what we've learned. Qualcomm's at a crossroads. Big challenges, but also huge opportunities in the wireless world.
Their success depends on innovation, navigating geopolitics, and finding that right balance with licensing.
It's a high-stakes game, but Qualcomm's got what it takes to play it.
The talent, the resources, the experience, they've got it all.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Qualcomm. We've covered a lot, from the chips themselves to patents to those big legal fights to the whole future of wireless. Hopefully, you've gotten a better understanding of this company.
It's a fascinating story, that's for sure, and one worth paying attention to.
Definitely. Remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about these companies, these technologies, the better decisions you can make as an investor, a consumer, or just someone who's curious about the world.
Absolutely.
So keep learning, keep exploring, and join us next time for another deep dive into the world of business and tech.